Thank you very much for the kind invitation. I've been paying attention to all my colleagues that have already given a bright presentation on the topic. And once again, I'm honored to have been invited and share these, well, from my experience, what I perceive are the human rights mechanisms and how they work and how we can get the most out of them. Well, as it was mentioned before, international humanitarian law establishes protection to civilians, specific buildings, certain professions, as well as the way armed conflicts should be conducted in order to reduce or alleviate the commission of war crimes or eliminate the commission of war crimes and human rights violations. Everything looks good on paper, but reality, as mentioned by Dr. Bassan, brings gray areas and also situations that have not been foreseen by the law. We are aware that every day weapons are transferred across borders, finding their way into conflict zones where they feel violence, civilian suffering, and long-term instability. And let's not forget crimes in Latin American countries. Unlike other manufactured products, when we refer to arms exports, besides trade transactions and logistics, they carry profound ethical and legal implications. I read somewhere that companies and states should focus between profit and protection of human rights. I disagree. I believe that when it comes to human rights, there is no choice but to fulfill them. And companies have a responsibility in this issue. How do we ensure states and corporations involved in arms transfers to uphold their human rights obligations? Well, one would be with strong ethical and legal frameworks. Sometimes I watch the news and I ask myself, is it so hard to remain ethical? Is it so hard to see the big picture, to look ahead of the consequences for the worst of the decisions certain gun manufacturers make? Well, fortunately, besides the treaties, the Arms Trade Treaty mentioned earlier, the UN Charter, we also have the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. Even though this is not compulsory or mandatory for all countries to follow it, there have been initiatives in countries. They have acquired them in their national action plans on business and human rights. And the thing is that well, it's not a treaty. There is an initiative to make it a treaty, but it's not. We are not there yet. What matters here is that the UNGPs, the United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, can actually be applied to all manufacturers, arms manufacturers. As you may have seen before or may have read before, in the UNGPs, there are three pillars, right? The state duty to protect, the corporate responsibility to respect, and the access to remedy. I've heard the previous speakers mentioning that sometimes the state doesn't have laws or doesn't have a legal framework to stop or to ban arms getting into the country. The same thing happens in Latin America. And sometimes even when we have the laws, enforcing them is when it comes to a problem because of corruption, among other political issues. Besides this first pillar, there's also the corporate responsibility to respect. Arms manufacturers and exporters must assess and mitigate human rights risks. That is through the due diligence, especially because of the way of the goods that they transfer. They need to pay special attention and care. They also have the possibility to create within their own company those mechanisms that can remediate or to serve as a remedy for the violations to human rights that are committed when by, let's say, groups that use their arms to commit crimes against humanity, for example. It could be a possibility there. That is a door that we could open and further study. Now, when it comes to access to remedy, victims must have a mechanism to hold the states and businesses accountable. What we see nowadays, or what we have seen in history, is that there is a tendency towards impunity and also towards a very slow way of fixing or providing remedy to victims. And in this, well, in this point, I would like to share a little bit of my experience. When in my country there are violations to human rights, and because of the political composition, it's impossible to for the authorities, for us to go to the authorities and get legal and get justice. Then we go to the regional international, to the Court of Human Rights, to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. I come from Peru, and in Peru there have been through our history a number of human rights violations, especially committed by dictatorial regimes. Nowadays there is a democracy. However, crime is increasing, and that is also something that all population actually worry about. And in this case, I'm sharing the experience of my country. When we have a sentence given by a regional human rights body, we can include this sentence into our legal jurisdiction. That is, there is a procedure that we do in court in which the sentence given by the Inter-American Court of Human Rights can be nationalized, let's say, and applied. And even if the government or the state doesn't want to comply, then we can go to the judiciary system and they can help us get the awards or what that we have gained in this sentence. And I am not very familiar with how it works in the Middle East, but I know that in Europe, they have also the European Court of Human Rights, which is also a body that can be used in cases of violations of human rights that are in their jurisdiction. Now, closing the parenthesis. Well, the UN human rights bodies, now not talking about regional, but about the United Nations, have been very well explained by the previous speaker. So I'm not going to repeat what she has said. I totally agree with her. I just want to add that they are not powerless in the face of arms trade decisions. They have the tools, the authority, and the moral imperative to act. The question is, will states listen? Will they uphold the responsibility to prevent arms transfers that fuel suffering due to corruption, greed, low ethical values? The time for action is now, and we must ensure that arms exports do not violate the principles of human rights and humanitarian protection. And now, just to conclude, when it comes to UN mechanisms, they come more as recommendations, hence they are not mandatory. It is in the national level that change can happen. And this is also something that I believe Dr. Bazan mentioned, that and I would like to to reinforce this idea, because I believe that it is better for us to have strong legal, strong laws, strong ways to enforce these laws, so that we make little use of international mechanisms. Right now, we need them. We need to use them. But the aim would be to have a strong judiciary system, a strong legal framework, and that our legal that it is effective and we can actually use it. And well, that will be all.